Have you got the venom and vitriol out of your system yet? No? Didn't think so. I guess it's going to take a better person than me to stem the tide of criticism levied against Chris Chibnall for his admirably daring decisions he made regarding the conclusion of Series 12. Suffice to say, many people were appalled by Chibnall's audacity to make such a monumental change to the history of Doctor Who. I mean, who the hell does he think he is, the showrunner? Oh, wait a minute. Fact of the matter is, Doctor Who has a long, manic history of changing their history for the sake of spicing things up. Regeneration! After that, Robert Holmes continuously caught heat from fans for the liberties he took during his time as a script editor. Meanwhile, let's not get started with the frankly ridiculous amount of bile spewed at both Russell T Davies and Stephen Moffat during their respective runs. Fact of the matter is, it's the responsibility of the showrunner to shake things up in some fashion. Otherwise, they're just a placeholder and the show will stagnate. Which brings us neatly to Chris Chibnall. I've had my criticisms of his run on the show, mainly for his lack of memorable dialogue and difficulties with proper story focus, but if there's anything I will praise him for, it's his daring to make major changes to the show. Changes that, well, really, the show needs, whether the fan base likes it or not. I mean, let's face it, if we had a female Doctor back when Tom Baker hinted at it, well, it would never have been as taboo when Jodie Whittaker was cast. And it would just be a common occurrence for the show. You want proof? Back in the 90s, people went batshit when the 8th Doctor kissed Grace, but now, thanks to Russell T Davies and Moffat, no one gives a shit. The prospect of a female Doctor has come and gone, and for extra measure, we now have 2 female Doctors, and now one of them is a person of color, and funny enough, that surprise was met with some enthusiasm. So the moral? Make the change a common thing and it won't be that big a deal with the passage of time. So what does it have to do with the Timeless Child? Well, it's a pretty big change. One momentous enough to change the legacy of Doctor Who for years to come. And remember, this show is almost 60 years old. So yeah, admittedly, big deal. So big that it's understandable why it's so scary. But remember, people, Doctor Who is all about change. And if Doctor Who didn't change, it'd be like, well, Star Wars. As I record this, Series 39 is currently filming now, and there's still an air of uncertainty as to where Chibnall intends to take the story thread. And it's got a lot of people worried about where it's gonna go. But much like all the Doctor's companions' lives, things definitely become more interesting when they follow the Doctor into the unknown. Of course, doing so usually helps with the Doctor by their side, offering words of comfort to help them ease them in. While I'm not the Doctor, despite my best efforts, I am still going to give you 10 reasons the Timeless Child will benefit Doctor Who. Number 10, it will fix all the past inconsistencies when it comes to regeneration. Everyone will be quick to blame Moffat for this one, whether it be because of 11 using his energy to heal River's arm, the existence of the War Doctor, or his new regeneration cycle. However, this problem actually goes all the way back to the brain of Morbius, and the various faces seen during the Doctor's mental duel with Morbius. Now back then, many brushed it off as various incarnations of Morbius, but over the years there had also been wild speculation that those extra faces may have also been incarnations of the Doctor that even preceded the first Doctor. So the idea that there may be more Doctors than even the Doctor had even known about, that was always up in the air. Now that we know that the Doctor has the gift of a permanent regeneration cycle, it effectively clears up that problem. Number 9, it lends insight into aspects of the Doctor Who lore that we never thought about. We all know the Time Lords gain mastery over time and space, Rassilon, Omega, and maybe the Doctor, more on that later. They harnessed the energy of a supernova by creating a device called a stellar manipulator, which gave them the energy source, which inevitably became the Eye of Harmony. But it doesn't explain where the Time Lord's gift of regeneration came from. It's one of the race's most distinctive traits, and you'd think there'd be more light shined on that particular topic. We know that it's a finite process, and can be circumvented if the Time Lords allow it. The fact that the Time Lords have control over this process means that regeneration is not a product of evolution. However, where did this come from? 26 years of the classic series and 12 of the new have never shed light on this up until now. Not even in Big Finish, not even in any of the Virgin novels or any of them. Now we know that it came from an entity that was blessed/cursed with this ability from the dawn of time. A being who would have their genetic makeup harvested to be given to the Time Lords. There, it's explained, and it's an explanation that has the same level of grandeur and momentousness as Rassilon and Omega and the whole time travel arc. On a side note, we always wondered who that woman was in the end of time. Could that have been Tech Taeyun?
Did I just blow your mind?
Number 8, it puts to rest the question of how many times the Doctor can regenerate. We now know they can go on forever. And before you go on proclaiming that this will remove any sort of tension the show has, the Doctor can regenerate, but the Doctor is still not immortal. As we've seen, a Time Lord is capable of refusing the change. The Master did it, the Doctor almost did it twice in the same night, and had Donna not turned left, the Doctor would have died with the Arachnos. Time Lords can die, it just depends on the nature of said death. In the Big Finish audio The Scapegoat, the 8th Doctor mused that a Time Lord can't change if they're beheaded, which means that there are deaths that a Time Lord can't recover from. Unless you forget, the Doctor wasn't sure that he would regenerate after dying from spectrox toxemia in the caves of Androzani. The Doctor still could have died on Trenzalore because he was being led to believe that this was where he was meant to die. So there may be a final death of the Doctor somewhere out there, it may just be a longer road than we originally thought. Number 7, it lends credence to the idea that the Doctor is far more than just another Time Lord.
Oh, Davros, I am far more than just another Time Lord.
Famous statement uttered by the 7th Doctor in a deleted scene of Remembrance of the Daleks, and this was meant to segue into a much bigger story for the series, lovingly and in some cases loathingly dubbed the Cartmel Master Plan. This concept hinted to the very real possibility that the Doctor is far older and vastly more important to the history of the Time Lords than anyone knows. Perhaps there was a chapter in the Doctor's history in which they may have been made aware of their past and went into overdrive trying to manipulate the universe towards an idyllic utopia. It would definitely explain why McCoy's Doctor had a penchant for godlike manipulation. Now, it's a fact that the Doctor has a longer and considerably larger story that reinforces ideas that were merely alluded to and even discarded in the past. Now we know that the Doctor has a history that elevates them to a level that transcends their own people, which, thank God, because number 6, it will liberate the show from always being beholden to Gallifrey. Okay, I'm gonna say it. Can we please be done with the Time Lords? Throughout the show's long history, the Doctor has always been bound by their people for one reason or another. In the beginning, he was trying to get back to Gallifrey, and then the Doctor was running from Gallifrey. Then he was exiled because of Gallifrey. The list just goes on and on and on. And then when the show was revived, it was all about the Doctor mourning Gallifrey, then resurrecting Gallifrey, then finding it again. There's just one problem. The Time Lords are not worth this much trouble. The Doctor has constantly been at odds with Gallifrey, whether it be because of a difference of philosophies or because the Time Lords are just duplicitous as all get out. It just seems like the Doctor is better off without them. Every time we go back to Gallifrey, the Time Lords either want to imprison the Doctor, torture the Doctor, hell, even kill him. The Doctor just never seems to have a pleasant time whenever he goes back to their family home. Frankly, I sympathize. If that isn't enough, the Time Lords are just bastards. Much like the Jedi, the Time Lords build themselves up to be virtuous, peace-loving paragons of justice. And then you look past the veil, and then you realize that they're nothing more than just complacent to a fault, and more often than not, have been guilty of hypocrisy when it comes to their principles. Let's not forget the fact that they destroyed Earth to protect their secrets, but it can even be argued that their efforts to kill the Daleks before their creation was the impetus that led to the Time War and the generations of death and destruction that followed. With Gallifrey destroyed and the Doctor realizing she was never really Gallifreyan, maybe we can finally leave these assholes in the dust and move on to bigger and hopefully less genocidal things. Number 5, it's already opening the Doctor to new casting possibilities. Previously stated, thanks to this revelation, we now have an extra Doctor in the form of the wonderful Jo Martin, who boldly jumped into the role and could even be said to have upstaged the current Doctor. While there are dissenters claiming casting a POC woman as the Doctor was done to force a political agenda on the show, seriously, off with that. Doctor Who has always been political, and anyone who says Doctor Who shouldn't be political shouldn't be watching anything at all, because 95% of art has political tones both under and over. Just shut up, take the ride, and learn to love it, because this is the way the show is always going to go, and it's for the best, because now the role doesn't always have to follow a set archetype. Previously, it was always Aryan men, and now it's a woman, and as a bonus, there's another woman of another ethnicity. Now, the casting possibilities for the role are truly limitless. Now, Richard Ayoade is topping lists for prospective Doctors. It was only a short time ago where that didn't seem like a possibility, but now, the Doctor, like the show, can truly be anything! Number 4. It will take the Doctor-Master rivalry to a new level. Let's face it, the Master's alive. Why? The Master's always alive. So we can now think about how the revelations of the Timeless Child will affect the consistently acrimonious relationship between the Doctor and the Master. In the beginning, they were just two renegades who used to be friends who inevitably became enemies because of their philosophical divide. This relationship has decades of development under its belt, and an argument could be made that it came to a satisfactory conclusion with Missy's death in The Doctor Falls. We still have no idea where Sacha Dhawan's Master fits into the timeline. If he truly is the next incarnation after Missy, then a solid theory could be that the Master went back to Gallifrey, contrite and eager to make good on their promise to the Doctor to redeem themselves, only to find out that the foundation of their entire society is not only built on lies, but it was built on the cruel, tortuous exploitation of an innocent child. This would be enough to cultivate this newfound sense of self-loathing and resentment in the Master. But then the Master finds out that the Doctor is the timeless child, and now the Master is disgusted with his own flesh because now he knows that the Doctor has always been a part of them, and now there's truly no escape from their nemesis. Now, every time the Doctor and the Master clash, the Master will have this need to try and break the Doctor by making her more like him, an idea that isn't that hard to believe considering Missy attempted a similar feat in Death in Heaven. Now, this eternal rivalry has escalated to the point where one can never truly escape the other, and now it will drive the Master even more off the edge than they already were, and Dhawan's performance already hints at that particular downward spiral. Number 3, it creates some new angles for Jodie Whittaker and later actors to explore in the role. In my review of Revolution of the Dalek, you can see Jodie Whittaker actually taking that development by the horns. What once was a jolly, eccentric teacher is now a deeply troubled wanderer who truly does not know what she is supposed to do with this information. And what's worse, based on the shreds of this past that she's encountered, what has she done in the past? Prior to the Doctor meeting Ian and Barbara, he was a bit of a cold, heartless prick. It was through their guidance that the Doctor became the Crusader for Good that we know today. From what we've seen of Dr. Ruth, it's clear that the Doctor may very well have traveled many a dark paths in the epochs leading up to 76 Tyler's Lane. Now Jodie Whittaker gets to explore these concepts and seriously aid in giving her and every actor that follows new and exciting angles to explore in future stories, so long as the writing can provide that, which I know Chibnall. Number 2, a new mystery is created that effectively puts the Doctor on the same level as the audience. For the entire history of Doctor Who, there's always been a divide between the audience and the titular character. The Doctor has always been a mystery to his companions, and by extension to us. With every answer came more questions, and the only one who had the answers was the Doctor themselves. The Doctor has always been cagey about their past. The 7th Doctor era comes to mind again, as one of the main goals of script editor Andrew Cartmel was to bring back the mystery of the character. One can safely say that we kind of fell back into that routine in the recent seasons of the new series. There never seemed to be the inclination to delve into the mystery of the character. Stephen Moffat merely teased us with reveals we knew we should never ever hear, so what's the point of teasing us with it if you never intend to provide it? Thanks to The Timeless Child, when someone asks Doctor Who, now even the Doctor isn't 100% sure. As much as the Doctor is a mystery to us, now the Doctor is just as much a mystery to themselves. Finally, we can relate to the Doctor on a new level because how many of us wander through life unsure of what kind of person we are? It's hard to fathom given how much we respectively remember, but it's even more torturous with all the stuff we've forgotten, which conveniently leads us to number 1. It expands the potential of stories by a considerably wide margin. Doctor Who has always had the good fortune to have an insanely large playground, which effectively provided the show with a multitude of ideas for the show. You could safely presume that for a show whose foundation involves travel through time and space, the story potential is almost self-replicating. In a fashion, that is true, but even then, the show has found itself relying on old ingredients, Daleks, Cybermen, the Master, etc. Reliable as they may be, there is a sense of familiarity that could be detrimental to the show. So much that the Doctor's universe may very well be shrinking. With the reveal of The Timeless Child, we now have a brand new universe to explore. The billions upon billions of years in which the Doctor lived prior to the Doctor we know now. Whenever you see thrillers where memory loss is a core plot point, part of the entertainment of those films is the characters' reactions when they find out what they got up to in the midst of their blind spot. Solid examples of this narrative device include Memento, The Hangover, and even the Bourne films. But imagine how many stories could come when you find out that you have been alive since the dawn of time. time. Imagine what adventure will come from the Doctor following the breadcrumbs of their pasts. Maybe the Doctor spent a whole incarnation being evil. Maybe one of those incarnations was the Valeyard. Maybe the Doctor spent a whole incarnation fighting the Time Lords instead of helping them. Maybe the Doctor fought the Rachnos, forcing them to find that corner of the galaxy to wind up creating the Earth. The Doctor has always traveled through time and space to discover the mysteries of the universe, but what if the greatest mystery of them all was the Doctor's own self? Who knows? Maybe the series could have been leading up to this point and we never even knew it. This could mean Doctor Who could live on longer than even Sidney Newman himself could have ever imagined. We just have to take the Doctor's hand, jump in the box, and take the trip of 1 billion lifetimes. So, do you agree? Do you disagree? Seriously, did this do anything to give you a new perspective on the whole concept of the timeless child? Probably not. You guys have conniption fits if Force sensitives aren't inbred. Anyway, leave it all in the comments below, and for more addictive content on Narcotic Casserole, simply like, share, subscribe, click, thou shalt be served.